University initiation ceremonies are back in the spotlight with an inquest hearing how a first-year university student died after taking part in a bar crawl that involved drinking triple vodkas. Ed Farmer was found unconscious after a night out in Newcastle, with his society post-mortem into his death found he had 5 times the legal drink-drive limit in his blood. The inquest also heard at least 200 triple vodka drinks were ordered and shared around the group. Initiation rituals are historically rife in universities across the globe, and despite many institutions banning them, some still go ahead in secret. But as habits change and more students opt to go teetotal during their freshers' weeks, could this be last orders for university initiatives? Well, let's hear from NUS Vice President for Welfare, Eva Croissant-Jury, and Nikos Sotirakopoulos, a sociologist at the University of York. I have a go at that, don't I, every time? How did I do that time, Nikos?
Very good. Today was better than any time, but it's York St. John University.
Oh, I do. Oh, well, okay. I'm sorry I got that bit wrong. I do beg your pardon. What do you make of this latest story that we're talking about today?
Look, this is a very tragic story, but let's see it in the wider context. And the wider context is that last year, 27% of young people reported that they did not drink at all. And there is a rapid drop in the number of young drinkers compared to previous decades. But also, the universities are taking so many actions already to make sure that these phenomena do not happen. Almost all of them have drinking awareness campaigns. They closely monitor activities that could encourage irresponsible behavior, and these kind of initiation ceremonies were already banned in Newcastle University. But there is a limit to what the university can do to monitor the behavior of students outside business hours or outside the lecture theatre. And actually, there is an argument to be made that maybe universities are doing more than they should on such topics, because their role is to teach people and not to substitute and play the role of their parents.
Let's bring in Eva, should we? Hello to you, Eva. We're just hearing that drinking is at a historic low, but why is university life still so closely associated with alcohol?
I mean, I think first of all, we just want to send condolences to the friends and family of the student. And sadly, this isn't the first time that something like this has happened. I think that there are very big issues around kind of power play within initiation ceremonies. So kind of the coercive behaviour sometimes we see, and when that's linked to alcohol is also especially dangerous. And so one of the very worrying things is, although some students are drinking less, 70% of students associate university life with alcohol, and this association with drinking and initiations is something that creates a very dangerous environment for students who maybe have left home for the first time, maybe don't know their limits, maybe kind of need help and guidance on education around like safer drinking cultures.
I wonder, Nikos, how much universities should accept responsibility for what is going on within their, university life and student life.
Yeah, the thing is that part of becoming an adult is also taking responsibility for your actions and avoiding silly behaviors. And sometimes we learn from our mistakes. Now, hopefully, usually these mistakes won't have these tragic consequences, and most of the times they don't, as in the case of this unlucky student. But I would say there's also a wider issue here. Lately, universities look more and more like a continuation of school in terms of them taking care of every aspect of students' life. And also, in some cases, some universities sell themselves as basically theme parks, offering students a pleasant and non-challenging so-called student experience. And I'm not convinced that this is a good model or a good paradigm for young adults' maturation process, or for them taking themselves and university more seriously. So my only worry is that doubling down on this, let's say, nanny role that the university is playing and taking such incidents outside of their proportions is more likely to increase irresponsible behavior rather than decrease irresponsible behavior, like binge drinking.
Eva, what's your experience?
I mean, I think that not just students, but the population more widely needs education on safer drinking cultures. And it often is the case that students who've come to university, it's the first time they're really engaging in maybe such an alcohol heavy scenario they might not have been in before. So we really need, it's not about parenting a student, it's about education. So it's about like knowing your limits, but it's also about kind of changing the narrative of this power play that exists within initiations, where students quite often, I mean, there's a lot of work done saying about how scared and lonely students get when they first start at university. And when you pair that with this kind of relationship with initiations and alcohol, you can see how a lot of students, over 70% of students, feel pressured to drink to feel like they fit in. So that's where we really need to focus, is on this idea that drinking means you fit into a university, because we know that that's not the case.
Nikos?
Yeah, actually, I agree with something that Eva said, which is about people learning their limits. So I would say that sometimes actually relaxing rather than tightening regulations might have a better effect. For example, since the Licensing Act was introduced in 2005, allowing pubs and nightclubs to remain open for longer, we have seen a drop in drinking, and this includes binge drinking among most population groups. And sometimes things like changes in culture or in the wider technology are better than restrictions. For example, see why so many people have turned in healthy lifestyles. It has less to do with campaigns and more to do with, let's say, fancy gadgets or self-tracking applications. So I would say my message is that freedom and individual responsibility tend to work better than regulations and restrictions.
Eva, what would your advice be to people that are going to university and find themselves in a position where they are potentially under pressure to get involved in these sort of drinking games?
I mean, I don't think it's about regulation as such. I think that it's about looking at environments, maybe societies and sports teams that make you feel comfortable for who you are, who don't expect you to have to drink to a certain extent, or expect you to do things that you don't feel comfortable in. Because ultimately, whilst you're at university, that's a time to find people that you really get on with and like-minded people. And not all social events have to evolve around alcohol. We're not saying that they don't at all, but there are loads of different options for things that you can do at university that don't involve initiations. And actually there's loads of work going on with training student volunteers to talk to their peers about safer drinking cultures and how we create safer kind of cultures within our societies and sports teams.
Okay, good to talk to both of you. Thanks for joining us on the programme this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you very much.